When the world's richest man sits alone in his mansion at 2 a.m., crying over his failures, he thinks he's lost everything that matters. His companies are crashing. The media calls him out of touch. Even his own son lives thousands of miles away with his ex-wife. But then Elon Musk hears something from upstairs that will change his life forever. A soft, young voice in the darkness. His 8-year-old son, X, who's supposed to be in New York, is somehow here in his house. And what the boy is saying will break Elon's heart and heal it at the same time. As Elon climbs the stairs toward his son's voice, 2 questions will haunt him until the very end. Will he discover the prayer that could save their broken relationship? And will he finally choose love over the empire that's cost him everything? The clock on Elon Musk's computer screen glowed 2:17 a.m. He rubbed his tired eyes and stared at the numbers that seemed to mock him. His company's stock had dropped another 15% today, the worst day in 5 years. Empty coffee cups covered his desk like small white towers. Energy drink cans lay scattered around his chair. His phone buzzed every few seconds with messages he couldn't bear to read. Each buzz felt like a tiny hammer hitting his already pounding head. Elon pushed back from his desk and walked to the tall windows of his home office. Outside, the California night was quiet and peaceful. Inside his mind, a storm raged. "What have I done wrong?" he whispered to his reflection in the dark glass. The answer came in the form of his phone lighting up again. This time, it was a news alert. The headline made his stomach drop. Elon Musk, genius or out-of-touch billionaire? Critics say he's lost connection with reality. He scrolled through the article with shaking hands. The words cut deep. Musk seems more interested in his rockets and robots than the real people his decisions affect. Another line stung even worse. Sources close to the family say even his own children rarely see him anymore. Elon set the phone down carefully, afraid he might throw it across the room if he held it any longer. His hands were actually shaking now. When was the last time he'd eaten a real meal? When was the last time he'd slept more than 3 hours? When was the last time he'd talked to his son? The thought hit him like a punch to the chest. X, his 8-year-old boy who lived across the country with his mother, Maya. They'd divorced 2 years ago, and Elon told himself it was better this way. Fewer distractions, more focus on changing the world. But tonight, sitting alone in his mansion that felt more like a museum than a home, Elon wondered if he'd changed anything at all, or if he'd just broken everything that mattered. His computer pinged with another email, then another. His assistant had forwarded him angry messages from board members, worried investors, and former friends who now questioned every decision he made. The messages all seemed to say the same thing. "What's wrong with you, Elon?" He laughed, but it wasn't a happy sound. It was the laugh of a man who'd built rockets to reach the stars, but couldn't figure out how to reach the people in his own life. "I'm the richest man in the world," he said to the empty room. "I've got companies worth billions. I'm sending people to space. So why do I feel like such a complete failure?" The silence in his office was so loud it hurt his ears. No wife to talk to. No close friends who weren't also business partners. Just him, his computers, and the weight of trying to carry the future of humanity on his shoulders. Elon walked over to a framed photo on his bookshelf. It showed him and X at a rocket launch 3 years ago. X was 5 then, wearing a tiny astronaut helmet and grinning up at his father like he was the greatest hero in the universe. Elon remembered that day. It was one of the last times he felt truly happy. "I used to be your hero," he whispered to the photo. "Now, I'm just the dad who's too busy to call. His phone buzzed again. This time, it was a text from Maya. X asked if you're coming to his soccer game on Saturday. I told him you're probably too busy. Please prove me wrong for once. The message was sent 6 hours ago. Elon had been so buried in crisis meetings that he'd missed it completely. He started to type back, then stopped. What could he say? That he'd forgotten about the game? That he had 3 board meetings scheduled? For Saturday? That saving his companies was more important than watching his son kick a ball around a field? He deleted the half-written message and put the phone face down on his desk. The house creaked around him, settling into the quiet hours of early morning. Somewhere in the walls, the heating system hummed. Outside, a car drove by, its headlights sweeping across his windows before disappearing into the night. Elon had never felt more alone in his life. He thought about all the interviews where reporters asked him about work-life balance. He always gave the same answer. If you're trying to change the world, you can't work normal hours. Some things are more important than comfort. But sitting here now, he wondered if he'd gotten it backwards. Maybe some things were more important than changing the world. Maybe he'd been so focused on the future that he'd forgotten about the present, about the small moments that make life worth living. Like tucking your son into bed. Like throwing a baseball in the backyard. Like being there when your child looks up at you with those trusting eyes and says, "I love you, Daddy." When was the last time X had said that to him? Elon couldn't remember. The realization hit him like a cold wave. He was losing his son. Maybe he'd already lost him. All those missed calls, postponed visits, and promises to make it up to you later had added up to something terrible. A little boy who'd stopped expecting his father to show up. "What have I become?" Elon whispered, putting his head in his hands. For the first time in years, the man who'd built an empire felt completely powerless. All his money, all his success, all his grand plans for humanity meant nothing if he couldn't even be a decent father to his own child. He sat there in the dark, wondering if it was too late to fix what he'd broken. Wondering if X would even want him back in his life. Wondering if he deserved another chance. That's when he heard it. A soft voice from upstairs. Young and gentle, like a whisper carried on the wind. Elon lifted his head and listened. Someone was talking. It sounded like X, but that was impossible. X lived 3,000 miles away with Maya. Unless Elon's heart began to race. Had Maya brought X for a surprise visit? Was his son actually here, in this house, right now? He stood up slowly, afraid to hope. The voice was definitely coming from upstairs, from the guest bedroom where X stayed during his rare visits. Elon walked to the bottom of the staircase and looked up into the darkness. The voice was clearer now. It was definitely X's voice, soft and sweet, talking to someone. A video call with friends, probably. Kids stayed up late these days, chatting with each other online. Elon smiled slightly. At least his son had people to talk to, even if his own father wasn't one of them. But as Elon climbed the stairs, step by careful step, he began to realize something that would change everything. X wasn't talking to friends. He wasn't on a video call at all. And what Elon was about to discover would break his heart and heal it at the same time. Elon froze on the stairs, his hand gripping the wooden railing. How was X here? Maya hadn't called. There were no messages about a visit. Had something happened? Was everything okay? His mind raced back to 2 years ago when everything fell apart. Maya had been patient for so long. Too long. She used to bring X to the office on weekends, hoping Elon would take a break from his computer to play with their son. But there was always another email, another crisis, another meeting that couldn't wait. "Daddy's saving the world," Maya would tell X when he asked why his father couldn't come to dinner. "He's building rockets to help people." But even Maya's patience had limits. The divorce papers came on a Tuesday. Elon was in a board meeting when his assistant, Mrs. Chen, knocked on the conference room door. Her face was pale as she handed him the envelope. "Sir," she whispered, "I think you need to see this right away." Elon had read the papers twice before the words sank in. Maya was taking X and moving to New York. She'd found a job at a school there. A fresh start, she called it. "You can visit any time," she'd said during their last conversation as a married couple. "But Elon, you have to actually visit, not just promise to visit." He'd promised, of course. He'd sworn things would be different. But then the next crisis hit, and the next one after that. His visits became phone calls. Phone calls became text messages. Text messages became birthday cards signed by Mrs. Chen. Standing on the stairs now, Elon remembered the last time he'd tucked X into bed. It was 6 months ago, during a brief visit to New York. X had looked so small in his new bedroom, surrounded by boxes they still hadn't unpacked. "Daddy," X had said, his voice barely above a whisper, "do you love rockets more than me?" Elon had laughed. Not a mean laugh, but the kind of laugh adults make when kids ask questions that seem silly. "Don't be silly, buddy. Of course not." But he'd never actually answered the question. He'd just kissed X's forehead and hurried back to his hotel to join a conference call with Tokyo. Now, in the darkness of his hallway, Elon realized the terrible truth. He'd never answered because he wasn't sure what the answer was, and that scared him more than any business failure ever could. His phone was always buzzing with rocket updates. His computer always showed new car designs. His calendar was always full of meetings about changing the world. But when was the last time he'd asked X about his day at school? When was the last time he'd helped with homework or read a bedtime story? Elon thought about his own father, who'd been distant and cold. As a child, Elon had promised himself he'd be different. He'd be the kind of father who was present, who listened, who made his children feel important. Instead, he'd become exactly what he'd feared most. The soft voice upstairs continued, and Elon forced himself to keep climbing. Each step felt heavier than the last. His legs shook, not from tiredness, but from a fear he couldn't name. What if X didn't want to see him? What if his son had given up on having a real father? What if Elon had waited too long to care? He remembered Mrs. Chen's gentle reminders over the years. "Sir, it's X's birthday next week." "Sir, he has a soccer game on Saturday." "Sir, the school play is Thursday evening." Elon always had the same response. "Send flowers. Send a gift. I'll make it up to him later." But later never came. There was always another emergency, another deadline, another reason why work had to come first. His companies had become his children. His rockets were his babies. His cars got more attention than his actual son. He'd told himself it was all for X's future. That building a better world was the greatest gift he could give his child. But what good was a better world if X grew up feeling unloved by his own father? Elon reached the top of the stairs and paused outside the guest bedroom door. The same door he'd walked past hundreds of times without thinking. The room where X stayed during those rare visits that became shorter and less frequent each time. Its voice was clearer now. Definitely X's voice, but softer than usual. Almost like he was sharing a secret with someone special. Elon's hand moved toward the doorknob, then stopped. What if he was interrupting something important? What if X was talking to Maya? What if his son was telling his mother how much he missed having a real dad? The thought made Elon's chest tight. He leaned against the wall, trying to breathe normally. He thought about all the photos on his phone. Thousands of pictures of rocket launches, factory tours, and business meetings. But how many photos did he have of X? Maybe 20? And most of those were from years ago, when X was small enough to think his daddy could do anything. When had that changed? When had X stopped looking at him with those bright, trusting eyes? When had his son stopped asking him to play catch, or read stories, or just sit together and talk about nothing important? Elon couldn't pinpoint the exact moment, and that made it worse. It hadn't happened all at once. It had been gradual, like watching a plant die from not enough water. Each missed phone call, each canceled visit, each time he'd chosen work over. Family had been like forgetting to water that plant one more day. Now he was standing outside his son's room, afraid to go in, because he might discover the plant had finally died completely. The voice continued, gentle and steady. X was definitely talking to someone, but Elon couldn't hear another voice responding. Maybe it was a one-sided video call. Maybe X was recording a message for friends at school. Or maybe... Elon pressed his ear closer to the door, and his breath caught in his throat. This wasn't a phone call. This wasn't a video chat with friends. This was something else entirely. Something that would shatter everything Elon thought he knew about his relationship with his son. Something that would change both their lives forever. Elon's hand trembled as he slowly pushed open the bedroom door. The old hinges made a tiny squeak, but the soft voice inside didn't stop talking. The room was dark, except for a small nightlight shaped like a rocket ship. Elon had given it to X 3 years ago, back, when his son still got excited about his father's work. The little rocket glowed blue and white, casting gentle shadows on the walls. And there, beside the bed, was X. He was kneeling on the carpet in his pajamas. His hands were folded in front of him, and his eyes were closed. His brown hair stuck up in the back the way it always did when he'd been sleeping. Elon's heart stopped. X wasn't on a phone call. He wasn't talking to friends or making a video. He was praying. "God," X whispered, his young voice filled with a sadness that made Elon's chest ache. "Please help my daddy." Elon pressed himself against the doorframe, afraid to breathe, afraid to move, afraid that any sound would break this moment, and he'd lose the chance to hear what his son really thought about him. "He seems so sad all the time," X continued, his small hands clasped tightly together. "I see it in his eyes when he thinks I'm not looking. Even when he tries to smile, I can tell he's hurting inside." Tears began forming in Elon's eyes. When was the last time someone had noticed his pain? When was the last time anyone had cared enough to worry about him instead of just wanting something from him? "Everyone says mean things about him on TV," X said, and Elon could hear the 8-year-old struggling with big emotions. "They call him names and say he doesn't care about people. But that's not true, God. He does care. He cares so much that it makes him tired." Elon had to cover his mouth to keep from making a sound. His son saw through all the headlines and angry tweets to the real person underneath. His little boy, who barely got to see him anymore, still believed in him when the whole world seemed to have turned against him. "I know Daddy is trying to help. The world with his rockets and cars," X went on. "Mom explained it to me. She said he wants to make sure people can breathe clean air and maybe live on other planets someday if Earth gets too sick." Maya had said that? Even after their divorce, even after all the hurt Elon had caused, she was still helping their son understand his father's work? But God, X's voice got smaller, more fragile. Maybe you could help him remember that I need him too? The words hit Elon like a physical blow. His legs gave out, and he slid down the wall in the hallway, still listening, still hidden in the shadows. I don't need expensive toys or trips to Disney World, X continued. I just want to play catch with him again like we used to. Remember when I was little and he taught me to throw? Except he never really taught me. I just pretended he did. Because I wanted it to be true. Elon's heart shattered. His son had been lying to protect his feelings. All those times X told people, "My dad taught me baseball." He'd been making it up because he wished it had happened. I have his old baseball glove, X whispered. Sometimes I sleep with it, because it still smells like him a little bit. Mom doesn't. No. She'd probably be sad if she found out. Elon was crying now, silent tears streaming down his face. His son was sleeping with his old glove, holding on to any small connection to his absent father. God, I know Daddy loves me, X said, and his voice was so sure, so trusting, that it broke Elon's heart all over again. But I don't think he knows how to show it anymore. He's forgotten how to just sit and talk. He's forgotten how to play. He's forgotten that hugs are more important than hurry. Out of the mouths of babes, an 8-year-old had just summed up everything wrong with Elon's life in one simple sentence. Hugs are more important than hurry. Please help him slow down, X prayed. Help him remember that I don't need him to save the whole world. I just need him to save some time for me. Elon was sobbing now, pressing his fist against his mouth to stay quiet. When was the last time someone had defended him? When was the last time someone had called him their hero? Not because of his money or his companies, but just because they loved him. And God, X added, his voice barely audible now. Please don't let Daddy forget that I love him, even when he's too busy to say it back. That did it. Elon couldn't hold back the sound anymore. A small sob escaped his lips. X's eyes flew open. He turned toward the door, and in the glow of the rocket nightlight, father and son looked at each other for the first time in 6 months. Daddy? X whispered, his face confused and hopeful and scared all at once. Elon couldn't speak, couldn't move, couldn't do anything but stare at his beautiful, forgiving, heartbroken son who'd been praying for him in the middle of the night. How long have you been there? X asked softly. Long enough, Elon managed to whisper back. X's eyes were wide. Did you hear? Everything. Elon's voice cracked. I heard everything, buddy. For a moment, they just looked at each other across the dark room. The man who'd built an empire, and the boy who just wanted his father back. Then X did something that surprised them both. He smiled. I'm glad you heard, he said simply. I've been wanting to tell you all that stuff for a long time, but I didn't know how. Elon crawled across the floor to where his son was kneeling. When he reached him, he pulled X into the tightest hug of both their lives. I'm sorry, Elon whispered into his son's hair. I'm so sorry. It's okay, Daddy, X whispered back, his small arms wrapping around his father's neck. God answered my prayer. You're here now. And for the first time in years, Elon Musk felt like he was exactly where he belonged. They held each other for what? Felt like hours, but was probably only minutes. X's small body fit perfectly against Elon's chest, just like when he was a baby. How had Elon forgotten how good it felt to hold his son? How are you here? Elon finally asked, pulling back to look at X's face. I thought you were in New York with Mom. X's cheeks turned pink. Mom brought me yesterday. She wanted to surprise you, But when we got here, you were locked in your office with all those people in suits. She said we shouldn't bother you during important meetings." Elon's heart sank. Maya and X had been here for a whole day, and he'd been too busy with his crisis meetings to even notice. His own son had been in his house, and he'd missed it completely. "Mom's sleeping in the guest room downstairs," X continued. "She said we could stay until Sunday if you're not too busy. But I heard her on the phone with Grandma saying she didn't think you'd have time for us." Another knife to the heart. Maya had brought X all the way across the country, hoping for a few days together, and she expected to be disappointed. Again. "Buddy, I want you to go back to bed," Elon said gently. "But tomorrow morning, we're going to spend the whole day together. Just you and me. No work, no meetings, no phone calls. I promise." X's eyes lit up, but then he looked worried. "What about your important business stuff? Mom says you're always busy saving the world." "The world can wait one day," Elon said, surprising himself with how easily the words came out. "You're more important than any meeting." X smiled the biggest smile Elon had seen in years. "Really? Really?" After tucking X back into bed and kissing his forehead goodnight, Elon went to his office, but instead of working, he sat in his chair and stared at his phone. It was 3:30 a.m. now, but he knew Maya was probably awake. She'd always been a light sleeper, especially when she was worried. He scrolled to her number and hesitated. They barely talked anymore except about X's schedule or school events. Their conversations had become business meetings about their son's life. But tonight felt different. Tonight, everything felt different. He pressed call. "Elon?" Maya's voice was thick with sleep, but also alert. "Is everything okay? Is X all right?" "Everyone's fine," Elon said quickly. I need to ask you something, and I need you to be completely honest with me." There was a pause. Maya was probably checking the clock, wondering why her ex-husband was calling at 3:30 in the morning. "Okay," she said carefully. "What is it?" "Amber, I losing our son?" The silence on the other end of the phone lasted so long that Elon thought the call had dropped. "Maya, are you there?" "I'm here." Her voice was softer now, sadder. "Elon, you never really had him to begin with." The words hit harder than any business failure ever could. But Elon knew they were true. "You were always too busy building your empire to build a relationship with X," Maya continued. "Even when we were married, even when we lived in the same house, you were somewhere else. Mentally, emotionally, you were always somewhere else." Elon closed his eyes. "I heard him praying tonight." "What?" "I heard X praying. For me. He was asking God to help me remember that he needs me too." Elon's voice cracked. "Maya, he was defending me. After everything I've put him through, he was defending me to God." Maya was quiet for a long moment. When she spoke again, her voice was gentle. "He loves you, Elon. He's always loved you. Do you know what he tells people when they ask about his father? No. He says his daddy is building rockets to help people reach the stars. He says you're the smartest man in the world and someday you're going to save everyone. He brags about you to his friends, even though..." She paused. "Even though what?" "Even though you've never actually taught him to throw a baseball. He tells everyone you did. But Elon, you've never played catch with him. Not once. He just wishes you had, so he pretends it happened." This revelation hit Elon like a physical blow. His son was lying to protect his father's reputation, creating fake memories to fill the void where real ones should have been. "He still has your old baseball," Glove, Maya added quietly. He sleeps with it sometimes. He thinks I don't know, but I see him holding it when he's sad. Elon was crying again, silent tears streaming down his face in the darkness of his office. I want to change, Maya. I need to change. But what if it's too late? What if I've already missed too much? Maya sighed. It's not too late, Elon, but it will require the one thing you've never been willing to give up. What's that? Control. You can't schedule love. You can't delegate being a father. You can't run a family like you run a company. And you can't keep putting work first and expect X to understand. Elon knew she was right. He'd spent years trying to manage his relationship with his son the same way he managed his businesses. Quick check-ins, delegated tasks, promises of later that never came. Maya, I want to make you a deal. What kind of deal? Elon took a deep breath. What he was about to propose would either save his relationship with his son or destroy what was left of his companies. Maybe both, but for the first time in his life, he knew which one mattered more. Let X spend the summer with me, the whole summer. But I have a condition for myself. I'm listening. I step back from my companies for those 3 months. No board meetings, no emergency calls, no quick check-ins at the office. Just father and son. The silence on the other end was so complete that Elon wondered if Maya had hung up. Elon, she said finally, you have 2 of the most important companies in the world. Surely they can run without you for 1 summer. Unless, she paused, unless you don't trust the thousands of brilliant people you've hired? It was a challenge, and they both knew it. Could Elon really step away from the empire he'd built? Could he trust others to make decisions without him? More importantly, was his son worth the risk? I'll do it, Elon said, the words coming out before he could change his mind. I'll step back. For X. For us. Elon, are you sure? This isn't like canceling a meeting. This is 3 months of, I'm sure. But Maya, I need you to understand something. If I do this, if I really step away, and something goes wrong with the companies, I might lose everything. And if you don't do this, Maya said quietly, you'll definitely lose something more important than any company. Elon knew she meant X, his son, the one person who still believed in him when the rest of the world had turned away. Okay, he said, it's a deal. But even as he said the words, Elon's phone was buzzing with an urgent message that would test his resolve before the deal could even begin. Elon stared at his buzzing phone, his heart racing. The message was from Dr. Sarah Kim, his lead rocket engineer. She only called for true emergencies. Elon, I have to take this, he told Maya. It might be important. It's always important, Maya said, her voice sharp with old hurt. That's the problem. But she stayed on the line as Elon read the message. His blood turned cold. Urgent. Critical failure in Falcon Heavy Launch System. Engine explosion during ground test. 3 astronauts scheduled to launch Monday. If you don't come in, now we might lose NASA contract forever. Sarah Elon's hands started shaking. The Falcon Heavy was supposed to carry astronauts to the International Space Station in 3 days. It was the most important launch of the year, maybe the most important launch in his company's history. If the mission failed, or worse, if it was cancelled, his company could lose billions. The NASA contract that took years to win would be gone. Hundreds of jobs would disappear. His stock price would crash even further. What is it? Maya asked, hearing his sharp intake of breath. There's been an accident, Elon said slowly. A rocket engine exploded during testing. The astronaut launch is supposed to happen Monday. And if I don't go fix this right now, he didn't finish the sentence. He didn't need to. Maya had heard this story 1,000 times before. There was always a crisis, always an emergency that only Elon could solve, always a reason why work had to come first. "I see," Maya said, her voice flat and disappointed. "So the deal is off? You're going to run back to your office and leave X here alone again?" "No," Elon said quickly. "I mean, I don't know. Maya, this isn't just about money. There are 3 astronauts whose lives depend on this mission working perfectly. If something goes wrong because I wasn't there to oversee the repairs, there are always astronauts, Elon. There are always people depending on you. But there's only one little boy in that bedroom upstairs who's been praying for his daddy to choose him for once." Elon squeezed his eyes shut. Maya was right, but she didn't understand. This wasn't like missing a soccer game or a school play. This was life and death. This was everything he'd worked for his entire career. His phone buzzed again. Another message from Sarah. "Engine damage worse than first thought. Need you here in 2 hours, or we'll have to recommend canceling launch. Sorry to wake you, but you're the only one who understands this system well enough to fix it." The words hit him like a punch to the stomach. You're the only one. How many times had he heard that over the years? How many times had he used those exact words to justify putting work ahead of family? Elon? Maya's voice was gentler now. "What are you thinking?" "I'm thinking that maybe I've made myself too important," he said quietly. "Maybe I've convinced everyone, including myself, that nothing can work without me personally watching over every detail." It was true. Elon had spent years micromanaging every aspect of his companies. He'd hired brilliant engineers and then second-guessed their every decision. He'd created a system where everything stopped if he wasn't there to approve it. "You have thousands of smart people working for you," Maya said. "Don't you trust them?" That was the question, wasn't it? Did he trust the people he'd hired? Did he really believe he was the only person capable of solving problems? His phone rang. "Dr. Kim calling directly now. I have to answer this," Elon told Maya. "Elon!" Sarah's voice was tight with stress. "Thank God you're awake. We need you here immediately. The engine failure is worse than we thought, and the backup systems aren't responding correctly. Without your expertise, we'll have to scrub the mission." "Sarah, slow down," Elon said, forcing himself to stay calm. "Walk me through exactly what happened." For the next 10 minutes, Sarah explained the technical details of the failure. It was serious, but as she talked, Elon realized something important. Sarah understood the problem perfectly. She knew what needed to be done. She was just scared to make the decision without his approval. "Sarah," Elon said finally, "what would you do if I wasn't available? If I was on a plane to Mars and couldn't?" He reached. There was a pause. "Well, I'd run a full diagnostic on the backup systems, replace the damaged components, and do a complete test sequence before clearing the launch." "And do you think that would work?" "Yes. But Elon, what if I'm wrong? What if I miss something important? This is too big a risk for me to handle alone." Elon closed his eyes. Sarah was one of the smartest people he'd ever worked with. She had 2 engineering degrees and 15 years of experience. She'd worked on every major rocket design his company had ever built. But he'd trained her, and everyone else, to depend on him for every major decision. He'd made himself the bottleneck that slowed everything down. "Sarah, I'm going to tell you something, and I want you to listen carefully. You are one of the most brilliant engineers I've ever met. You understand these systems better than almost anyone in the world. And right now, I'm going to do something I've never done before. What's that? I'm going to trust you to solve this problem without me. The silence on the other end was so complete that Elon wondered if the call had dropped. Elon, are you serious? You're not coming in? I'm serious. You have my complete authority to make whatever decisions you think are best. Run your tests, make your repairs, and call me only if you discover something completely unexpected. But what if something goes wrong? What if the astronauts, Sarah, nothing will go wrong because you won't let it go wrong? You're not going to make any decision that puts people at risk. I trust your judgment completely. After he hung up, the phone was quiet in his hand. Maya was still there, waiting. I can't believe you just did that, she said softly. Neither can I, Elon admitted. Maya, I think I've been afraid that if I'm not personally involved in every decision, everything will fall apart. But maybe the opposite is true. Maybe everything's been falling apart because I won't let other people do their jobs. What about the NASA contract? The money? Elon thought about X upstairs, sleeping peacefully with an old baseball glove. His son who prayed for his daddy every night. His son who still believed his father was a hero, even though that father had never taught him to throw a ball. If my company can't survive one crisis without me holding everyone's hand, then I've failed as a leader, Elon said. And if I can't trust the brilliant people I've hired, then what's the point of hiring them? So you're really going to stay? You're really going to spend the summer with X? I'm really going to try, Elon said. Maya, I heard our son pray tonight. He asked God to help me remember that he needs me too. Maybe it's time I started listening to prayers instead of just emergency phone calls. Maya was quiet for a long moment. When she spoke, her voice was thick with emotion. Elon, I hope you mean it this time. Because if you break his heart again... I won't, Elon said. And for the first time in years, he actually believed his own promise. I'm done breaking hearts. It's time to start healing them. But even as he said the words, Elon wondered if he was making the biggest mistake of his career, or the smartest decision of his life. Elon didn't sleep for the rest of the night. He sat in his office chair, staring at his silent phone and wondering if he'd just made the most expensive mistake in business history. Every few minutes, he picked up his phone to call Sarah back. His finger hovered over her number, ready to say, "Never mind, I'm coming in." But each time, he thought about X's prayer and put the phone down again. At 6 a.m., he heard small footsteps in the hallway. X appeared in his office doorway, still wearing his rocket ship pajamas, his hair sticking up in 3 different directions. "Morning, Daddy," X said with a sleepy smile. "Are you ready for our day together?" Elon's heart clenched. His son remembered the promise. After years of broken commitments, X still believed his father would keep his word. "I'm ready, buddy," Elon said, closing his laptop. "What do you want to do first?" X's eyes lit up like Christmas morning. "Really? No work today?" "No work today. Just you and me." "Can we make pancakes?" "Mom never lets me help because I always make a mess." Elon smiled. "Messes are the best part of cooking. Come on, let's go wake up the kitchen." They spent the next hour in Elon's huge, spotless kitchen, making the biggest mess possible. X got flour in his hair and syrup on his pajamas. Elon burned the first batch of pancakes because he was too busy listening to his son's stories about school to watch the pan. "These are the best pancakes ever," X declared, even though they were slightly burnt and shaped like lopsided circles. "Even better than Mom's?" Elon asked. "Don't tell her I said this," X whispered. "But yours are better because you let me help make them." Elon's phone buzzed. A text from Sarah. "First test complete. Found 2 more issues, but we're working on them. We'll update you in 2 hours." Elon read the message and felt his stomach tighten. 2 more issues? What if they couldn't fix them in time? What if the launch had to be cancelled? "Daddy," X's voice brought him back to the present. "Is that about work?" Elon looked at his son's concerned face. The old Elon would have lied, said it was nothing, and then spent the next hour secretly texting with his team. But something had changed last night. "Yes, it's about work," Elon said honestly. "Some people I work with are trying to fix a broken rocket engine. It's pretty important. Do you need to go help them?" This was the test, right here at his kitchen table, with pancakes getting cold and his son waiting for an answer. This was the moment that would show whether last night's promise meant anything. "No," Elon said, putting his phone face down on the table. "They're smart enough to figure it out without me, and even if they weren't, nothing is more important than keeping my promise to you." X beamed. "So, what should we do now?" "Well," Elon said, standing up from the table, "I believe someone mentioned wanting to play catch, and I believe I owe you about 8 years' worth of baseball lessons." They went to the backyard, where Elon found 2 old gloves in the garage. His own glove felt strange on his hand. When was the last time he'd worn it? College? Maybe earlier? "Okay, buddy, show me what you've got," Elon said, tossing the ball gently to X. What happened next was both heartbreaking and hilarious. X tried his best, but it was clear he'd never actually been taught to catch or throw properly. The ball bounced off his glove more often than he caught it. His throws went wild, sailing over Elon's head or bouncing in the dirt. But X never gave up. He ran after every missed ball with a huge smile, determined to get better. "It's okay, Daddy," X said after a particularly wild throw. "We can practice together. I don't mind if you're not good at it yet either." Elon laughed, realizing his own throws weren't much better. "You know what, buddy? I think we're both going to need some practice." They spent the next hour learning together. Elon showed X how to position his glove, and X showed his father that the most important part wasn't catching every ball perfectly. It was having fun trying. Elon's phone buzzed again, then again, then again. "Daddy," X said softly, "your phone keeps making noise." Elon looked at his son, then at his phone, then back at his son. The old Elon would have checked those messages, would have found some excuse to just quickly see what's happening. Instead, he walked over to the outdoor table where his phone was buzzing like an angry bee, picked it up, and turned it completely off. "There," he said, showing X the black screen. "No more interruptions." X stared at his father, like he'd just performed magic. "You turned off your phone? But what if someone needs you?" "Right now, the only person who needs me is standing right here holding a baseball glove," Elon said. "Everyone else can wait." They played catch until Maya came outside with glasses of lemonade. She stood on the porch, watching Elon and X throw the ball back and forth, both of them laughing when they missed. "I can't remember the last time I saw you without your phone," Maya said when they took a break. "I can't remember the last time I didn't want to check it," Elon admitted. "But today feels different. Today, this feels more important than anything else in the world." Maya smiled, the first real smile Elon had seen from her in years. "How does it feel?" "Scary," Elon said honestly. "And wonderful. And scary again." "Why, scary?" Elon looked at X, who was practicing throwing the ball into the air and catching it. Because I keep thinking about all the things that might be going wrong at work while I'm here. And then I think about all the things that went wrong in our family while I was at work. I don't know which fear is bigger. Maybe, Maya said gently, the fear of losing what you have right here should be bigger than the fear of losing what you have at the office. Before Elon could answer, X came running over. Daddy, can we build something together? Like a fort? Or a robot or something? What do you want to build? Elon asked. I don't care, as long as we build it together. They spent the afternoon in Elon's garage, building a rocket ship out of cardboard boxes and duct tape. It wasn't sophisticated like Elon's real rockets, but X acted like it was the most amazing thing he'd ever seen. This is the coolest rocket ever, X declared as they painted it silver with leftover spray paint. When I grow up, I want to build rockets with you. Only if that's what you really want, Elon said. You don't have to follow in my footsteps, buddy. You can be anything you want to be. I know, X said, carefully painting a window on their cardboard rocket. But I think it would be fun to work together. We make a good team. As the sun started to set, Elon realized he'd gone an entire day without checking email, attending meetings, or solving urgent crises. And somehow, the world hadn't ended, but his real test was just beginning. At 8 p.m., his phone would automatically turn back on. And when it did, he would discover whether his leap of faith had been worth it, or whether choosing his son over his company had cost him everything. At exactly 8 p.m., Elon's phone came back to life with a symphony of beeps, buzzes, and alerts. He was reading X a bedtime story. When the sound started, X's eyes went wide. Daddy, your phone sounds angry. Elon's stomach knotted as he looked at the screen. 47 missed calls, 112 text messages, 63 emails, marked urgent. His first instinct was to grab the phone and start reading immediately, but X was curled up next to him, holding the book they'd been reading together. Finish the story first? X asked hopefully. Elon looked at his son's trusting face, then at his screaming phone. This was another test, maybe the biggest one yet. He turned the phone face down without reading a single message. The story comes first, he said. Everything else can wait. They finished the book together, and Elon tucked X into bed with the same care he'd once used to design rocket engines. Daddy? X said, as Elon turned off the light. Today was the best day I've had in a really long time. Me too, buddy. Me too. Only, after X was asleep, did Elon finally look at his phone. His hands shook as he read the messages. The first few were from Sarah. Engine repairs going well. Found the problem. Solution working. Then the tone changed. Elon, where are you? Need your approval on final checks. Launch director asking for you personally. The most recent message was from his brother Kimball. Stock price dropped 12% today. Board members panicking. Media saying you've disappeared. Call me. Elon's heart pounded. 12% in one day. That was billions of dollars. His employees' retirement plans, shareholders who trusted him, all losing money because he'd chosen to play catch with his son. But then he read Sarah's final message, sent just an hour ago. All systems green. Launch cleared for Monday morning. We did it without you, Chief. Team is proud. Elon stared at those words. We did it without you. For years, that phrase would have terrified him. The idea that his companies could succeed without his direct involvement challenged everything he believed about leadership. But tonight, it felt like victory. His team had solved the crisis. They'd fixed the rocket, cleared the launch, and kept astronauts safe. all without him hovering over their shoulders or second-guessing their decisions. He called Sarah back. "Elon," she answered on the first ring. "Where have you been? We've been trying to reach you all day." "I was with my son," Elon said simply. "Tell me about the repairs." For the next 20 minutes, Sarah walked him through everything they'd accomplished. The pride in her voice was unmistakable. She and her team had faced their biggest challenge without their boss, and they'd succeeded. "Sarah," Elon said when she finished, "how do you feel about what happened today?" "Honestly, terrified at first, but then empowered. We realized we knew more than we thought we did. We just needed permission to trust ourselves. And the launch? It's going to be perfect. Maybe even better than if you'd been here micromanaging." Every detail. After hanging up with Sarah, Elon called his brother. "Kimball, it's me, Elon." "Thank God. Where have you been?" "The board is in full panic mode. Stock analysts are writing obituaries for your companies. They think you've had a breakdown." "Maybe I have," Elon said. "Or maybe I've had a breakthrough." He told Kimball about X's prayer, about the promise to Maya, about choosing family over the rocket crisis. Kimball was quiet for a long time. "You know what, brother? I'm proud of you. Even if it costs me billions." "Elon, you've spent your whole life trying to get to Mars. Maybe it's time you figured out how to stay on Earth with the people who love you. But the stock price will recover. Good companies bounce back from one bad day. But kids don't bounce back from years of feeling unimportant to their fathers." The next morning, Elon woke up early and made breakfast for the family. Real breakfast, not the energy bars and coffee he usually survived on. Maya came downstairs and found him at the stove, actually cooking eggs instead of just heating up something from a package. "You're up early," she said, surprised. "I wanted to make breakfast for my family," Elon said. "Seems like something a father should know how to do." Over pancakes shaped like rockets, X's request, they planned their day. X wanted to visit the Science Museum. Maya suggested a picnic in the park. Elon found himself excited about both ideas. "Can we bring our baseball gloves?" X asked. "I want to practice more." "Absolutely. But buddy, I have to tell you something. I'm probably going to be worse at teaching you baseball than I am at most things." X giggled. "That's okay, Daddy. We can learn together." At the Science Museum, Elon discovered something wonderful. X was fascinated by everything, not just the space exhibits, but the biology displays, the physics demonstrations, and especially the section about ocean exploration. "Did you know," X said, reading from a display about deep-sea creatures, "that we know more about the surface of Mars than we do about the bottom of our own oceans?" Elon stopped walking. His 8-year-old son had just pointed out something profound that most adults never considered. "That's incredibly smart, X. What do you think about that?" "I think maybe we should explore our own planet more before we try to live on other ones. The ocean has so many cool animals we haven't even discovered yet." Maya caught Elon's eye and smiled. Their son wasn't just smart. He was thoughtful in ways that surprised both parents. At the park, they spread out a blanket and played catch on the grass. Elon was still terrible at it, but he was getting better. More importantly, he was having fun. Other families were there too. Fathers teaching their kids to throw, mothers pushing children on swings, teenagers playing frisbee with their parents. Elon watched them and realized he'd never been part of this world before. He'd always been too busy to notice that life was happening all around him. "Daddy," X said during a break from playing catch, "can I ask you something?" "Of course. Are you sad that you had to miss work to be with me?" The question hit Elon right in the heart. His son was worried about being a burden, about taking his father away from important things. "X, look at me," Elon said, kneeling down to his son's eye level. "This is the important thing. You are the most important thing in my whole life. Any work that keeps me away from you isn't worth doing." "Really? Really? And you know what I discovered yesterday?" "What?" "All those smart people I hired to help me build rockets. They're so smart they can build them without me standing over their shoulders. Which means I get to spend more time with you." X's smile could have powered one of Elon's rockets. That evening, as they sat on the porch watching the sunset, Elon's phone rang. It was the head of NASA. "Elon," the voice said, "I wanted to personally congratulate you on today's successful launch." Elon had been so focused on his family that he'd forgotten to check the news. "The launch happened flawlessly. Your team performed incredibly well. The astronauts are safely on their way to the station. Whatever you did to prepare that team, it worked." After hanging up, Elon sat quietly on the porch. His son was curled up next to him. Maya was reading a book in the chair beside them, and his rocket was carrying astronauts to space. For the first time in his life, all the important pieces were in their right places. But he knew the real test was still coming. The summer was just beginning, and old habits would try to pull him back. The question was, had he really changed? Or was this just a temporary break from his old life? Only time would tell if Elon Musk had truly learned to be a father, or if the pressures of business would eventually win again. 6 weeks into their summer together, Elon's phone rang at 5:30 a.m. with the call he'd been dreading. He and X had fallen into a beautiful routine. Morning pancakes shaped like different objects, rockets, cars, dinosaurs, whatever X requested. Afternoon baseball practice in the backyard, where both father and son were finally getting good at catching. Evening story time, where they took turns making up adventures about space explorers who always remembered to call home. But this morning was different. The phone's harsh ring cut through the peaceful quiet like a knife. Elon looked at the caller ID and his stomach dropped. It was his board chairman, Mr. Richards. He never called unless something terrible had happened. "Hello?" Elon answered quietly, trying not to wake X in the next room. "Elon, we have a problem." "A big problem." Mr. Richards' voice was tight with stress. "I need you to sit down." Elon was already sitting on the edge of his bed, but his heart started pounding anyway. "What happened?" "The repairs on the Falcon Heavy weren't as good as we thought. The rocket that launched last month, it's failing. The engine that Sarah's team fixed is showing signs of breaking down again. The astronauts are stuck on the space station." The words hit Elon like a physical blow. "What do you mean, stuck?" "Their return capsule won't start. The same engine problems we thought were fixed have gotten worse in space. NASA is furious. They're talking about canceling our contract and never working with us again." Elon's hands started shaking. This was his worst nightmare. 3 astronauts were trapped in space because he hadn't been there to oversee the repairs personally, because he'd trusted his team instead of doing the work himself. "There's more," Mr. Richards continued. "The stock price is in free fall. We've lost 40% of our value in the last 3 hours. The board is meeting in emergency session. Some members are calling for your immediate return, and others—" He paused. "Others what?" "Others are talking about replacing you as CEO. They're saying you've lost focus, that you're not the leader the company needs anymore." Elon felt like he was drowning. Everything he'd built over 20 years was crashing down because he'd chosen to play catch with his son instead of personally checking every bolt and wire on that rocket. "Elon, you need to come back immediately. Mr. Richards said. "Drop everything and get here. You're the only one who can fix this mess." There it was again. "You're the only one." The words that had controlled his life for so long. I need to think," Elon managed to say. "There's no time to think. 3 astronauts are counting on us. The entire company is counting on you. Get on a plane now, or we might lose everything." After hanging up, Elon sat in the darkness of his bedroom, his head in his hands. Through the thin walls, he could hear X moving around in the next room, probably getting ready to surprise his father, with breakfast in bed like he did every Friday. This was exactly what Maya had warned him about. There would always be a crisis, always an emergency that demanded his immediate attention, always a reason to break his promises to his family. But this time was different. This time, people's lives were actually at stake. Not just money or contracts or stock prices, but 3 human beings floating in space, depending on him to bring them home safely. Elon walked to his window and looked out at the backyard where he and X had spent so many happy hours playing catch. The grass was worn down, in spots where they'd practiced every day. X's improvement had been incredible. He could now catch almost every throw, and his own throws were getting stronger and more accurate. But would any of that matter if Elon abandoned him now to rush back to work? His phone buzzed with a text from Sarah. "I'm so sorry, Elon. I thought we'd fixed everything. I should have been more careful. Those astronauts are stuck because of my mistakes." Elon stared at the message. Sarah was blaming herself, just like he was blaming himself. But maybe they were both wrong. Maybe the real problem was a system that made everyone feel like they had to be perfect the first time. Every time. Another text, this one from Maya. "Saw the news about the astronauts. I know you're thinking about leaving. Just remember, X is finally happy. Don't break his heart again unless you absolutely have to." Before Elon could respond, he heard footsteps in the hallway. X appeared in his doorway, already dressed and holding a tray with slightly burnt toast and orange juice. "Surprise, Daddy! I made you breakfast." X's smile was so bright, it made Elon's chest ache. Then X noticed his father's expression. The smile faded. "Daddy, are you okay? You look sad." Elon had a choice. He could lie, like he always used to. Pretend everything was fine and deal with the crisis after X went to bed. Or he could be honest with his son about what was happening. "Buddy, come sit with me," Elon said, patting the bed beside him. "I need to tell you something important." X carefully set down the breakfast tray and climbed onto the bed. "Is it about work?" "Yes. Some things at work are going very badly. Remember the rocket that launched a few weeks ago? The one we celebrated?" X nodded. "Well, it's broken now, and there are 3 astronauts stuck in space because of it. A lot of people think I need to go back to work right away to help fix it." X was quiet for a moment, thinking hard. "Do you have to go?" That was the question Elon had been avoiding. Did he have to go? Or did he just feel like he had to because that's what he'd always done before? "I don't know, buddy. What do you think I should do?" X's 8-year-old face was serious as he considered the question. "Well, are there other smart people at your work who could help the astronauts?" "Yes, there are lots of smart people. And if you go back to work, will you have to stay there for a long time?" Elon's throat tightened. "Probably. This kind of problem usually takes weeks or months to fix." X nodded slowly. "So, if you go, our summer together would be over." "Yes." They sat in silence for a moment. Outside, birds were singing, and the morning sun was warming up the backyard where they'd planned to practice pitching today. "Daddy," X said finally, "can I tell you a secret?" Of course. X climbed into his father's lap, just like he used to when he was smaller. "When you were gone all the time before, I used to pretend you were on a secret mission to save the world. It made me feel better about missing you." Elon's eyes filled with tears. "And now? Now I know that you saving the world doesn't mean as much if you're not here to save time for me too." X looked up at his father with those trusting brown eyes. "But Daddy, if people really need you to help them get home safely, then maybe you should go. I would understand." The wisdom of his 8-year-old son took Elon's breath away. Even now, even after everything they'd built together this summer, X was willing to let his father go if it meant helping other people. But as Elon held his son close, he realized something important. The choice wasn't really between his company and his family anymore. The choice was between the man he used to be and the man he wanted to become. And for the first time in his life, Elon knew exactly what he had to do. Elon held X close and took a deep breath. His decision would shock everyone: his board, his employees, and maybe even himself. "Buddy, I want you to listen carefully to what I'm about to do, okay?" X nodded, his small arms still wrapped around his father's neck. Elon picked up his phone and called Mr. Richards back. "Elon!" "Thank God. Are you on your way to the airport?" "No," Elon said calmly. "I'm staying with my son." The silence on the other end lasted so long that Elon wondered if the call had dropped. "Elon, did you hear what I told you? There are astronauts stuck in space. The company is falling apart. You have to come back." "I heard everything you said. And here's what I'm going to tell you. We have the most brilliant aerospace engineers in the world working for us. Sarah Kim is one of the smartest rocket scientists alive. Dr. Martinez knows more about engine systems than I do. If they can't solve this problem, then maybe we hired the wrong people. But Elon..." "I'm not finished," Elon continued, his voice growing stronger. "For 20 years, I've convinced everyone, including myself, that nothing important can happen without me personally watching over every detail. But you know what? That's not leadership. That's fear." X listened carefully to every word his father said. "What are you talking about?" Mr. Richards sputtered. "I'm talking about the fact that if our company can't survive one crisis without me holding everyone's hand, then I've failed as a leader. Real leaders build teams that can succeed without them. They trust the brilliant people they hire to do brilliant things. The board will never accept this. They'll vote you out." Elon looked at X, who gave him an encouraging nod. "Then let them. If the board thinks panic and micromanaging are better solutions than trusting our team, then maybe they need a different CEO. But I'm not abandoning my son again. Not for anything." After hanging up, Elon immediately called Sarah. "Sarah, it's Elon. I know about the astronauts. Elon, I'm so sorry. We thought we'd fixed everything, but..." "Sarah, stop. I'm going to ask you some questions, and I want honest answers. Do you understand what went wrong with the engine?" "Yes, completely. It's a pressure valve issue that we didn't catch the first time." "Do you know how to fix it?" "Yes, but it will require a remote repair using the backup systems. It's complicated, but doable. Do you trust your team to execute the repair correctly?" There was a pause. "Yes, I do. But Elon, what if something goes wrong? What if we make a mistake?" "Sarah, I'm going to tell you something important. You are not going to make a mistake, because you won't let yourself make a mistake that puts people at risk. You're going to double-check everything, run every test, and make sure those astronauts get home safely. But what if the board questions our decisions? What if they blame us if something goes wrong? Then they can blame me. I'm giving you my complete authority to make whatever decisions you think are best. I trust your judgment completely, and I'll support whatever choices you make. Elon, are you sure about this? I've never been more sure of anything in my life. After the call, X looked up at his father with amazement. Daddy, you just told those people they could do their jobs without you watching them. That's right, buddy. But aren't you scared they might mess up? Elon smiled, terrified. But you know what scares me more? The idea of you growing up thinking that work is always more important than family? The idea of missing any more of your childhood because I can't trust the smart people I hired to be smart. They spent the morning building a blanket fort in the living room, just like Elon remembered doing as a child. As they arranged pillows and draped sheets over chairs, Elon's phone buzzed constantly with urgent messages. Each time it rang, X looked at his father nervously. It's okay, Elon said after the fifth call. Let them solve their own problems. Today, my only job is being your dad. Around noon, Maya came into their blanket fort with sandwiches cut into star shapes. I heard about the astronauts on the news, she said quietly. Are you sure about staying here? I'm sure. Maya, for the first time in my life, I'm putting family first. Really first. Not just when it's convenient, but when it's hard. Maya's eyes filled with tears. I'm proud of you. Even if I lose the company? Especially if you lose the company and still choose to stay with your son. They spent the afternoon at the park playing catch and feeding ducks at the pond. Other families were there too, and Elon noticed something he'd never seen before. The fathers weren't checking their phones. Every few minutes, they were fully present with their children, laughing and playing and just being together. Is this what I've been missing? Elon asked Maya as they watched X chase ducks around the pond. This is what we've all been missing, Maya replied, but it's not too late to start. That evening, as they roasted marshmallows over a fire pit in the backyard, X made an announcement that surprised both parents. Daddy, I've been thinking about what I want to be when I grow up. Oh yeah? What's that? I still think I might want to help you with rockets someday. But now, I know something important. What's that, buddy? I want to help build rockets that bring people home to their families, not rockets that take daddies away from their kids. Elon had to wipe away tears. His 8-year-old son had just described the perfect mission statement for any company. Technology that brings families together instead of pulling them apart. That's the smartest business idea I've ever heard, Elon said. As they sat around the fire, Elon's phone rang one final time. It was Sarah. Elon, we did it. The astronauts are safely on their way home. The repair worked perfectly. I knew it would, Elon said, and he meant it. There's something else, Sarah continued. The way we handled this crisis, working together as a team without constant oversight, it was the best we've ever performed. We made decisions faster, communicated better, and trusted each other more. I think we discovered something important today. What's that? We discovered that you taught us well enough that we don't need you looking over our shoulders anymore. We can do amazing things when we trust ourselves the way you trusted us today. After hanging up, Elon looked at his family gathered around the fire. X was making s'mores with scientific precision, carefully calculating the perfect marshmallow-to-chocolate ratio. Maya was reading a book by firelight, looking more relaxed than she had in years. And for the first time in his adult life, Elon wasn't thinking about tomorrow's meetings, or next week's deadlines, or next month's launches. He was just here, in this moment. with the people who mattered most. But he knew the real test was still coming. In the morning, he would have to face the consequences of his choice. The board meeting that could end his career. The media questions about his priorities. The investors who might lose faith in his leadership. For now, though, none of that mattered. Tonight, he was exactly where he belonged. The next morning, Elon woke up to his phone ringing at 7 a.m. This time, he wasn't afraid to answer it. Whatever consequences he had to face for choosing his family, he was ready. Elon, it's Mr. Richards. The board chairman's voice was completely different from yesterday. Excited instead of angry. Have you seen the news this morning? No. I've been making pancakes with my son. What news? Turn on your TV, Channel 7. Now. Elon walked to the living room and turned on the television. X followed him, still wearing his pajamas and holding a stuffed rocket ship. The morning news was showing footage of 3 astronauts floating safely inside their return capsule, all of them smiling and giving thumbs up to the camera. This is perhaps the most brilliant rescue mission in space exploration history, the news anchor was saying. When the original engine failed, the team on Earth worked together to perform what experts are calling an impossible repair using only remote systems. The screen switched to an interview with Dr. Sarah Kim, who was standing in mission control surrounded by her team. The key to our success, Sarah was saying, was trust. Our leadership gave us complete authority to make decisions quickly. Instead of waiting for approval on every small step, we were empowered to work as a team and solve problems in real time. That's you, Daddy, X said excitedly. You're the leadership she's talking about. The reporter asked Sarah another question. What made this approach different from how you usually handle crises? Sarah smiled. Usually, we wait for detailed instructions from our CEO, but this time, he trusted us to do our jobs. He believed in us enough to let us work without constantly looking over our shoulders. It's amazing what a team can accomplish when they feel truly trusted. Elon's phone rang again. This time it was his stockbroker. Elon, I don't know what you did, but your stock price just jumped 25% in 1 hour. Investors are calling your management style revolutionary. They're saying you've discovered the secret to building teams that can handle any crisis. After hanging up, Elon sat down on the couch next to X, both of them staring at the TV in amazement. Daddy, they're saying nice things about you, X said. Everyone thinks you're smart for letting your friends at work solve problems by themselves. I think they might be right, buddy. The phone rang again. This time, it was the head of NASA. Elon, I wanted to personally thank you for the way your team handled yesterday's crisis. The speed and efficiency of their response was extraordinary. We're so impressed that we'd like to discuss expanding our partnership with your company. Over the next hour, Elon received calls from investors, reporters, and business leaders, all wanting to know about his new management philosophy. Everyone wanted to understand how stepping back had made his company stronger instead of weaker. Maya came downstairs and found Elon and X watching news coverage of the successful astronaut rescue. How does it feel to be a hero? She asked, sitting down beside them. I'm not the hero, Elon said. Sarah and her team are the heroes. I just finally learned to get out of their way. And how did you learn to do that? Elon looked at X, who was building a tower out of building blocks while humming happily. I had a good teacher, Elon said. Someone who showed me that the most important job in the world is being present for the people you love. That afternoon, they went to the baseball field at the local park. Elon had been practicing with X all summer, and today, his son wanted to show off his improved catching skills. Watch this, Daddy, X called out as Elon threw him a gentle pop fly. X positioned himself under the ball, raised his glove, and caught it perfectly. His face lit up with the biggest smile Elon had ever seen. "I did it! I really caught it!" X jumped up and down with excitement. "Did you see, Daddy? Did you see?" "I saw, buddy. That was an amazing catch." "You know what the best part is?" X said as he threw the ball back to his father. "What's that?" "You were here to see it. You weren't at work, or on the phone, or thinking about rockets. You were really, truly here." Elon felt tears in his eyes. How many moments like this had he missed over the years? How many times had X accomplished something wonderful with no one there to celebrate with him? "I'm gonna be here for a lot more moments like this," Elon promised. "Really? Even when work gets crazy again?" "Especially when work gets crazy. Because I learned something important this summer, X. Do you want to know what it was?" X nodded, eagerly. "I learned that the best way to solve problems at work is to have a happy heart at home. When I know you're proud of me and we're spending good time together, I can think more clearly about everything else." "So, spending time with me actually helps you with your rockets?" "It helps me with everything. You make me a better person, which makes me a better leader, which makes me better at building rockets that help people." They played catch until the sun started to set. As they walked back to the car, X slipped his small hand into his father's. "Daddy, can I tell you something?" "Always. When I prayed for you that night, I asked God to help you remember that I needed you too. But I think God gave me something even better." "What's that?" "He helped you remember that you needed me too." Elon stopped walking and knelt down to look at his son. "You're absolutely right, buddy. I did need you. I needed you to teach me what really matters. I needed you to show me how to be happy. I needed you to remind me that love is more important than work. And now you know? Now I know. And I'm never going to forget again." As they drove home, Elon's phone buzzed with another news alert. The headline read, "Elon Musk's revolutionary leadership style. How stepping back led to his greatest success." But Elon didn't read the article. Instead, he listened to X chattering excitedly about their day at the park, about the perfect catch he'd made, about the ice cream they'd get after dinner. For the first time in his life, the most important news wasn't on his phone. It was sitting right next to him in the car, telling him about a successful catch and asking if they could play baseball again tomorrow. And Elon's answer was an easy yes. 3 months later, Elon stood in the kitchen of his new house, making pancakes shaped like baseballs. It was Saturday morning, and X was still asleep upstairs after a late night working on a school project about ocean exploration. Everything had changed since that night he'd heard his son praying. Everything and nothing. His companies were more successful than ever. The Musk method of empowering teams and stepping back from micromanagement had become a business school case study. Other CEOs called him for advice on how to build trust with their employees, but the real change was smaller and bigger at the same time. Elon no longer worked 18-hour days. His calendar had blocks marked X time that were never, ever moved for meetings. His phone stayed off during family dinners and bedtime stories. His assistant, Mrs. Chen, now scheduled thinking walks in his day instead of back-to-back meetings. The house was different too. Elon had sold his cold, museum-like mansion and bought a smaller, warmer place with a big backyard perfect for baseball practice. The refrigerator was covered with X's artwork and report cards. There were board games on the coffee table and books scattered on chairs. It looked like a home where a family actually lived. Maya had moved back to California. Not to live with Elon, but to be closer so X could easily spend time with both parents. She'd taken a job at a local school and seemed happier than Elon had seen her in years. "We're not getting back together," she'd told Elon clearly. "But we can be a family in a different way. We can be parents who put X first." And they were. They went to X's soccer games together. They helped with homework together. They made decisions about their son's life together, like the co-parents they'd learned to become. "Morning, Daddy," X said, appearing in the kitchen doorway in his pajamas, his hair sticking up exactly the way it always did. "Morning, buddy. Baseball pancakes today?" "Actually," X said, climbing onto a kitchen stool, "can we make them shaped like whales? I'm working on my ocean project, and I can't stop thinking about how cool deep-sea creatures are." Elon smiled and started reshaping the pancake batter. "Tell me about your project." For the next 20 minutes, as they cooked breakfast together, X excitedly explained his research about bioluminescent fish and underwater volcanoes and the strange creatures that lived in the deepest parts of the ocean. "You know what's really cool, Daddy? Scientists have found more new species in the ocean in the last 10 years than they have on all the other planets combined. That is cool. Does that change how you feel about space exploration?" X thoughtfully chewed his whale-shaped pancake. "Not really. I still think rockets are amazing, but maybe we should explore both places, the deep ocean and outer space. Maybe we could build submarines that work like rockets, or rockets that work like submarines." Elon nearly choked on his orange juice. His 8-year-old son had just suggested a connection between space and ocean exploration that had never occurred to him. "X, that's actually a brilliant idea. Have I ever told you that you might be smarter than your old dad?" "You tell me that a lot," X grinned. "But I think I just noticed different things, because you taught me it's okay to ask questions about everything." After breakfast, they went to the backyard for their Saturday morning catch practice. X was good now, really good. His throws were accurate and his catches were confident. But more importantly, he was happy. "Daddy," X said, as they threw the ball back and forth, "can I ask you something?" "Always. Do you ever miss the old way? When work was the most important thing?" Elon caught the ball and held it for a moment, thinking about the question. "Sometimes," he said honestly. "Sometimes I miss feeling like I was the most important person in the company. Sometimes I miss the rush of solving every problem myself. But then I remember that feeling important isn't the same as being happy. And being busy isn't the same as being useful." "What do you mean?" "I mean the most useful thing I've ever done is learn to be your dad. Not just your father who pays for things and shows up sometimes, but your actual dad who knows your favorite breakfast and helps with homework and celebrates when you catch a perfect fly ball." X beamed and threw the ball back to his father. "You know what I think?" "What's that?" "I think God answered my prayer in a really smart way." "How?" "I prayed for you to remember that I needed you. But what really happened is we both remembered that we need each other." The wisdom of his statement took Elon's breath away. His son was right. This hadn't been about Elon sacrificing his career for his family. It had been about discovering that his family made his career better, and his career made sense only when his family was happy. "I love you, X," Elon said, throwing the ball gently back to his son. "I love you too, Daddy, even when you throw the ball too high." They both laughed as X jumped to catch Elon's slightly wild throw. That afternoon, Maya came over for their weekly family lunch. As she watched Elon and X work together to grill hamburgers, she shook her head in amazement. "I still can't believe the change in you," she told Elon, as they set the picnic table together. "What do you mean? A year ago, you would have taken 17 work calls during this lunch. Today, I don't think you've even looked at your phone." Elon glanced at his phone, which was sitting silently on the kitchen counter. "You know what? I forgot I even had it with me. And your companies are doing better than ever. Turns out, when you hire really smart people and then actually let them be smart, amazing things happen." As they ate lunch together, X made an announcement that surprised both parents. "I've decided what I want to be when I grow up." "Oh yeah?" Maya said. "What's that?" "I want to be an explorer. But not just a space explorer or an ocean explorer. I want to explore both. I want to build things that help people understand the IBO universe, both the parts that are far away and the parts that are deep down." Elon and Maya exchanged glances. Their son wasn't just dreaming about following in his father's footsteps anymore. He was dreaming about creating his own path. "That sounds like an amazing career," Elon said. "And you know what the best part will be?" "What?" "When you have kids someday, you'll already know the most important secret about work." "What secret?" "That the most important discoveries happen at the dinner table with people you love." After Maya left, Elon and X spent the evening on the front porch, looking at stars through the telescope Elon had bought for X's 9th birthday last month. "Daddy," X said, as they took turns looking at Jupiter, "are you happy?" "Happier than I've ever been in my whole life. Even though you're not working as much?" "Especially because I'm not working as much." "X, I learned something important this year." "What?" "I learned that success isn't about how busy you are, or how much money you make, or how many people think you're important." "What is it about?" Elon put his arm around his son as they sat together under the stars. "Success is about being exactly where you're supposed to be, with exactly the people you're supposed to be with, doing exactly what matters most. And where are you supposed to be? Right here, with you, always." As they packed up the telescope and headed inside, Elon realized that his greatest achievement wasn't building rockets or electric cars or becoming the richest man in the world. His greatest achievement was learning to be present for the small, perfect moments that make up a life well lived. Tomorrow, he would go to work and help his team plan missions to Mars. But tonight, he was exactly where he belonged. 1 year later, Elon was tucking X into bed in their cozy house. It was a Thursday night, and they'd spent the evening working on X's science fair project about underwater robots. Tomorrow, X would present his idea for machines that could explore ocean trenches the same way rovers explored Mars. "You know what, buddy?" Elon said as he pulled the covers up to X's chin. "Your project might be the best thing I've seen all year, and I've seen rockets go to space." X giggled. "It's just cardboard and tape, Daddy." "The best ideas always start with cardboard and tape. That's how I built my first rocket model when I was your age." As Elon turned off the light, he heard X whisper something soft and familiar. "Thank you, God." Elon paused at the doorway. "What are you thanking God for, buddy?" X smiled in the gentle glow of his rocket ship nightlight, the same one that had been in his room that life-changing night a year ago. "For answering my prayer. Remember that night when I asked God to help you remember that I need you too?" Elon's throat tightened with emotion. "I remember. Well, he did it. You're here now. Really here. Not just your body, but your heart too." Elon walked back to X's bed and sat down on the edge. His son's words brought back the memory of that night so clearly, standing in the dark hallway, listening to his child pray for a father who had forgotten how to be present. "X, can I tell you something?" Something I've never told anyone before? X sat up in bed, curious. What? That night, when you prayed for me, I heard you. X's eyes went wide in the dim light. You did? I was standing outside your door. I heard every word. Every single word. Really? You heard me ask God to help you remember that I need you? I heard you defend me when the whole world was saying mean things about me. I heard you tell God that I was trying to help people. I heard you ask for time together instead of expensive presents. Elon's voice cracked slightly, and I heard you say you loved me even when I was too busy to say it back. X was quiet for a moment, processing this revelation. So you knew what I was praying for when you decided to spend the summer with me? Your prayer didn't just reach God, buddy. It reached me too. It broke my heart, and then it healed it. I'm glad you heard, X said simply. I was hoping you would someday. Elon marveled at his son's response. No surprise, no drama, just gentle acceptance and love. X, I need to ask you something important. Do you remember what you said that night about just wanting to play catch with me? Yeah. You said I had taught you to throw a baseball, but I never actually had. You were just pretending because you wished it was true. X nodded, a little embarrassed. I wanted people to think my daddy spent time with me. Well, I want you to know something. You don't have to pretend anymore. We've played catch almost every day for a year now. I really have taught you to throw a baseball. And you've taught me something much more important. What's that? You taught me that love doesn't have to be scheduled. You showed me that being present for the small moments is more important than being important at big meetings. You saved your daddy. X's smile could have lit up the whole room. So God used me to answer my own prayer? I think so. But more than that, I think God used you to answer a prayer I didn't even know I needed to pray. What prayer? The prayer for someone to love me enough to want me home. The prayer for someone to see the good in me when everyone else only saw the mistakes. The prayer for a teacher who could show me what really matters. They hugged, a long, warm embrace between a father and son who had found their way back to each other. Daddy, X said, as Elon started to leave again, can I tell you something else? Always. Sometimes I still pray for you at night. You do? What do you pray for now? I pray that you'll remember this feeling forever. The feeling of being happy because you're exactly where you're supposed to be. Elon felt tears in his eyes. What else do you pray for? I pray that when I grow up and have kids someday, I'll remember to put down my work and pick up my children the way you learned to do. The wisdom of his 9-year-old son took Elon's breath away. X was already thinking about being a father himself someday, and the lessons he wanted to remember. And I pray, X continued, that other daddies and mommies who are too busy with work will hear their kids' prayers too, just like you heard mine. Elon had to cover his mouth to keep from sobbing. His son wasn't just praying for their family anymore. He was praying for all the families where parents had forgotten how to be present. Those are beautiful prayers, buddy. Daddy, do you pray now too? Elon thought about this question. A year ago, he would have said he didn't have time for prayer. Now he understood that prayer wasn't about finding time. It was about finding gratitude. Yes, I do pray now. What do you pray for? I pray thank you. Every single day, I pray thank you for a little boy who loved me enough to pray for me when I'd forgotten how to pray for myself. X snuggled back down into his pillow. I love you, Daddy. I love you too, X. more than rockets, more than cars, more than Mars, more than anything in the whole universe. As Elon left the room, he heard X whisper one more prayer. "Thank you, God, for giving me my daddy back. And thank you for helping him understand that love doesn't have to be scheduled." Elon smiled and whispered his own prayer as he walked down the hallway. "Thank you for giving me a son, wise enough to pray for his broken father. Thank you for the second chance I didn't deserve, but desperately needed. And thank you for teaching me that the greatest journey isn't to Mars or the moon. It's the one that leads you home to the people who love you." In his own bedroom, Elon looked out the window at the stars. Tomorrow, he would help his team plan the next mission to Mars. His rockets would continue reaching for the heavens, carrying astronauts safely to space and back home again. But tonight, he had everything he needed right here on Earth. A son who loved him, a family that was healing, work that mattered but didn't consume him, and the knowledge that he'd finally learned the most important lesson of all. The greatest success isn't measured in miles traveled to distant planets, but in moments shared with the people who make your own planet feel like home. Outside, the stars shone just as brightly as they always had. But now Elon knew something he'd never understood before. The most important light wasn't coming from the stars above. It was coming from the room next door, where a little boy with a rocket ship nightlight was falling asleep, secure in the knowledge that his daddy would be there when he woke up. And Elon would be there. Not because he had to be, but because there was nowhere else in the universe he'd rather be. The prayer that had once broken his heart had become the foundation for rebuilding his life. And every night, as he listened to his son's gentle breathing through the thin walls, Elon remembered that some prayers are answered not by changing the world around us, but by changing the heart within us. And that's how a father's broken heart became the foundation for the most important lesson of his life. Sometimes the smallest voices carry the biggest truths. Sometimes stepping back helps us move forward. And sometimes the best way to reach the stars is to first come home to the people who love us. If this story touched your heart the way it touched mine, I'd love to know where you're listening from. Drop your city or country in the comments below. It's amazing how stories about love and family connect people from all around the world. If you believe in spreading kindness and reminding parents everywhere that presence is the greatest present we can give our children, please hit that like button and subscribe to our channel. Your support helps us share more stories that matter. And don't go anywhere yet. Click on the video appearing on your screen right now for another heartwarming story that will remind you what truly matters in life. Thank you for listening, and remember, someone in your life might be praying for more of your time and attention. Don't wait to answer that prayer.